But I'm getting through. She never coming home. Stay with me. Say you'll leave. Pain, that's an option. No time for nonsense. Can't ask you nothing. Drink, feeling nauseous. Too many toxins. Not even conscious. Say nothing more. Say nothing more, baby. Pain, that's an option. No time for nonsense. Can't ask you nothing. Drink, feeling nauseous. Too many toxins. Not even conscious. Say nothing more. Say nothing more, baby. Baby girl, it's saying that we just friends. That we just friends. If we fucking, are we just friends? Are we just friends?
Hey everybody, happy Saturday evening live tutorial. How's everybody doing out there wherever you are on the internet this evening? I hope everyone has had a lovely Saturday. We had a beautiful Saturday here at the Beading Dreams. Hi Lori! We got to see some of our favorite people in person, including people who don't even live here in Dallas anymore. It was fantastic. We got a visit from Allison Brown, who abandoned us to go live in this fucking beautiful house and this fucking beautiful property in New Mexico. I mean, I don't understand the logic there.
It's very confusing.
In a hot tub in the snow last week.
Oh, yeah, no, just, it all sounds just too terrible. And she really, you know, but no, honestly, she looks amazing. New Mexico is obviously suiting her well. And it was so good, and she was such a doll. She stayed around because I had to run to the far north-ish of Dallas, aka Plano, to drop off some repair jobs, pick up some repair jobs, and she actually waited here until I came back so that I could get a hug, which was really fantastic. And then the staff was like, hey, we saved something for you. And my eyes immediately tracked to the work table where there's a bag of work from a client who I love and who is a doll. Her work is still not my favorite thing to do. And I'm like, this better not be a surprise. Like, this better not be what y'all are excited about. And then Allison came out from behind the streaming curtain, and it was a fantastic. And we had an in-person Rita, and we had an in-person lovely client who brought me some flowers because she wanted to cheer me up. So it was really a lovely day here at the Beading Dreams, and now I get to spend the rest of my work week here with all of you fabulous people. So ain't that grand? Yeah. So what are we doing? That's my, see? Carol is, she's externalizing my inner voice right now. So what are we doing this evening? We are doing the rare and elusive item on the Beading Dreams stream. We are doing a seed bead project. This is our that was our resident seed beader being very excited. This is our Mandala Medallion pendant, which is actually a circular brick stitch pendant. So we've seen brick stitch on the Beading Dreams stream before. It's part of our seed bead fringe earrings. And I have done this particular project on stream before as well, but not for a while. So let's talk tools and supplies for this evening's tutorial. Alright, so your seed bead supply list is typically slightly different than, you know, say your wire working or your soldering supply list. So, no round nose pliers required. It's true. So, let's talk supplies first, then tools. So you are going to need one bead for your Mandala Medallion pendant. That is about 10 millimeters. That's going to be the center of your pendant. You're going to need some size 6 seed beads. That's going to form that kind of outside halo of your pendant. And you're going to need some 6 millimeter or so stone or glass beads that are going to help you form that outside halo in a more efficient fashion. Now, when you're using gemstone beads specifically for this type of project, you need to make sure that the holes are big enough that a size 10 beading needle can fit through them with threads at least twice. And anybody out there who's done a lot of seed beading knows that that's not actually as uncomplicated as it sounds as far as tools go. Actually, I guess this is technically a supply. My mother does all of the supply lists now, and she'll text me and she'll be like, excuse me, is Fireline a tool or a supply? And I'm like, it's a thing you need to do the project, so I really don't care what category you put it in.
Tell us how you really feel.
If I was telling you how I really felt, there would be more 4-letter words. Just saying. It's Saturday night. It's the end of the work week. I'm tired. Heather's tired. We're all tired. Everyone's, yeah, no. I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore.
Do it.
No, I won't stop dropping F-bombs until the sales stream. I'll try not to stop dropping F-bombs until the sales stream. That was amazing.
Love you,
Carol, you're the best.
Keep everything covered.
If you can hear, like, if that was audible, please somebody clip that because that was amazing. So, as far as tools / supplies, you're gonna need some beading thread. Okay, so Fireline is something that the beading community stole from the fishing community. Look, there's a fish right there. It legit was fishing line. It still is fishing line. You could still fish with your Fireline if you were so inclined. How many fish could have... No. There was a limerick in my head and then it just went away. Anyway. So yeah, Fireline. This is the 6-pound Fireline and I'm using the smoke color tonight. So literally this is something that you can get at the bead store and also at the fishing store. So depending upon your particular geographical location, one of those two things is probably going to be easier for you to access. But I'm using 6-pound Fireline for tonight. If Fireline is not something that you can get your hands on, you also can use Nymo size D. You're going to need a size 10 beading needle. And you are going to need some kind of a sharp scissors. Diane's like... She really wants her to be peyote around my little potion bottle, which I love. If there's going to be peyote around that, I'm not going to do it. I'm just saying, like... It's gonna sit here, and if I come in one day and there's peyote magically around it, then I will post it on Instagram, and I will credit you, and I will tag you.
Festival?
I will be going mid-April.
We got a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
It's funny, you know, artsy people are funny. Like we as a genre are it's interesting. I think how we get fixated on our own artistic vision of something to the point where we will sacrifice our own very limited free time because we have a vision of how we want something to be, and we want to make that happen so much that we'll sacrifice the free time that we don't even have to make that happen. But I'll buy you food or something to compensate you. Or I'll bring a Mamie up and you can cuddle her. Speaking of which, I had to rescue... I promise at some point I'll get to the project. Maybe. But yeah, I had to rescue another lizard from the Mamie this morning. And the cocktail mixing vessel was the closest vessel to hand. Did I show you this? The lizard did survive with all of its parts intact. It was released back into the wild, and as far as I know, it was not recaptured by the Mamie. Also, let it be noted that I did wash the cocktail mixing vessel in soap and water before I brought it to work to mix Heather and my cocktails for the sales stream.
They're self-disinfecting.
But yeah, it was like, I just walked into the dining room and noticed Mamie like playing with something, and I was like, what are you playing with? Oh, you're playing with something that's still alive. I'm gonna save that thing from your murder mittens. And I was like, vessel. Ah! Grab the thing that's on the dining room table that I was, had cleaned, and yeah, so as far as I know, the lizard in the photo survived to tell the tale, hopefully to spread the wisdom to all of its lizard brethren that this house and this yard is a really bad place to be if you're a lizard. And maybe they'll tell the snakes too, because really, really bad, so much bad. Like, I mean, I guess if we're talking about like natural selecting the lizard population, like I got it, but or Mamie's got it. But anyway, okay, so let's go ahead and start the project. So I'm gonna start with my fire line, and I'm gonna cut myself a solid wingspan of fire line. So for me, at my height, that's a little bit more than 5 feet. Depending on your height, that might be a different amount for you. But the thing is, when you're doing seed bead projects like this, working with too long of a thread doesn't usually lead to good results. So you want to keep it, there's this edge that you need to walk where you've got it long enough that you don't have to add a thread every 5 seconds, but short enough that it's reasonable to work with. So like I said, for me that length is a wingspan, which is, like I said, a little bit more than 5 feet. And I'm going to go ahead and take that wingspan of cord. I'm going to thread it onto my size 10 beading needle. That was very emphatic trash throwing. One of the tricks I like is if you can't thread it, like go ahead and just flatten it with your fingernail, because the eye of the needle is flat. Also, if I can't get my needle threaded, we're just gonna skip straight to the sail stream. There we go. Yay, I threaded the needle. Alright, so there's my needle threaded with my 6-pound fire line. Now I'm going to take my 10mm bead, and this is going to be the centerpiece of my Mandala Medallion pendant, and that is the sample for that project, just for anybody who is wondering what the actual heck are you trying to make on this stream, lady? And the answer is, this is what I am trying to make. So first thing I need to do is I need to make a base layer of thread where my first row of seed beads is going to be positioned. I did not, Lori, center the needle on the thread. That's a good question. Which, hold on, sorry. Currently wondering if I can make this brighter. Awesome. Okay, so the question was asked, did I center my needle on my thread? And the answer is no, because I do want to use a single thread for most of this project. So what I have as far as needle on thread is I've got about a 12-inch tail, and then the rest of my thread is single. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking that thread and making a base layer of my thread that I can then use to anchor my first layer of brick stitch. So I've got my bead and my needle, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my needle and thread, put it up through my bead, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around 3-4 times this side, around 3-4 times that side. So it's important with your center bead that you have a big enough hole in your bead that you can pass your needle and your thread through it multiple times. Now I'm just going to go ahead and leave myself a solid like 6-inch tail of my thread, and once I've done a couple of passes around my center bead, then the idea, or the possibility that I'm going to pull my tail through my bead is going to be pretty much non-existent, just because of, you know, physics. Okay, so I've got three threads around one side, and then I'm going to go 3 threads around the other side. And so once again, my goal here is I want what's getting snugged up against my bead to be a single thread, not a double thread, which is why I've only got like a 12-inch tail on my needle. And you'll notice it's a bit of an arm span to, you know, get that around. And just to be extra sturdy, if you want to, after you've got those 3 rounds of thread on either side of your needle, not your needle, your bead, sorry, it's the end of the day and the end of the week, so yeah, my brain parts are definitely not working as optimally as they were, you know, even 48 hours ago, but you could go ahead if you wanted to and tie these two together if you wanted things to be extra secure. So now we're going to start with our base row of brick stitch. So let's talk for just a second about what is brick stitch versus, say, peyote stitch. So both of them are bead weaving techniques, but the difference is in the direction the beads sit in relation to each other. So in brick stitch, your beads are oriented literally like bricks, meaning the holes are vertically oriented and your beads are literally stacked up against each other like bricks in a wall. If this were peyote stitch, your orientation would be different. Your holes would be oriented horizontally and you would be building outward more like a weaving of a cloth rather than building bricks in a wall. So brick stitch is what we're doing tonight, and so let's talk about how we make that happen. So I have some size 6 seed beads. Now, you can absolutely brick stitch, and most people do brick stitch, peyote stitch, etc. with smaller than size 6 or 8 seed beads. Typically, your size that you'll use for most bead weaving is somewhere between size 11 and size 15 seed beads, because most of y'all seed bead weavers are crazy.
Totally.
But since the goal of this tutorial is to teach you the technique of brick stitch, not necessarily to lean into the craziness of the bead weaving community, y'all can do that craziness on your own time. Like, you know, I've got 18 minutes and then I gotta get ready for my sale. So I'm going with big seed beads. Also, anybody out there who really thinks I'm gonna get offline and get ready for my sale at 7 has obviously never watched the Beading Dream stream before.
Love you.
I love you too. Hi, Positively Crafty. I am okay. To be fair, I'm incorporating myself into the fold of the crazy people, but I'm sorry, y'all, seed beaters are like something else. I mean, I would say I'm a wire weaver, so I am exactly the same level of crazy, just a different part of the pie slice diagram. Like, you know, we all crazy.
It's all crazy.
We're all oh, Positively Crafty says 50 knots are their friends. That's a special kind of crazy right there. No, but I will say, so when I worked at Caravan Beads in Chicago, which was a minute and a half ago, and by a minute and a half I mean like 20 years ago, for some reason I would always get the job of restocking the size 15 wall, and Caravan Beads carried Miyuki size 15s, and every dang time I would wind up spending my entire paycheck on size 15s when I had to restock the size 15 model because they're just so pretty. The colors are so pretty, and I am not even kidding. This is 20 plus years later. I still have unopened tubes of size 15s from Caravan Beads because, like most,
Diane is salivating over here.
Yes. I'm like, oh, do you want to sell some?
I will. No, as I continue to organize my office space, I shall create a bag for Diane. But yeah, like, because as with most beaders, like, you know, acquiring the beads and doing the projects are not necessarily linked. So yeah, so I absolutely bought so many size 15s and have done nothing with them for the past 20 years. So, but you could totally do this circular brick stitch with size 15s had you an exponentially greater amount of patience than I do, and also more time. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and teach you all the technique of circular brick stitch using big ass beads. So I have my also, hi Amy. Okay, so I have my base rows made of my thread. So now I'm going to start my brick stitch, which means that I'm going to pick up a bead on my needle. I'm going to go underneath my base row, and this is where I'm going to kind of, you know, corral, because my base rows are kind of like, you know, they're migrating, so I'm going to corral the ones that are going to be on this side of my bead versus the ones that are on that side of my bead. And I'm going to pull my needle all the way through, and then I'm going to pass my needle back up through my bead. And if I did this right, what should happen is this should sit with the whole, that's not actually a thread, that's an inclusion in my bead. This should sit with the whole perpendicular is the word that my brain was trying for there, to the central axis of the bead. So now we're going to do this again. We're going to pick up a bead, and then we're going to go underneath those threads and make sure you catch all of them. Pull your needle all the way through, and then back up through your bead. And that's number 2. Okay, so you can see how these are sitting with their holes vertical in relation to the bead. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep doing this until I've got an entire base row of beads anchored onto my central bead. Okay, so there's 3, so we're just going to keep going. So I was having a conversation with one of my super talented staff who has a much wider knowledge of actual seed beading techniques than I do. And so we were talking about our favorite seed beading techniques, and actually my favorite seed bead weaving technique is right angle weave, because it works up much faster than most of the other seed bead weaving techniques, and I am not a patient soul. And then that's kind of where a conversation stopped, because, you know, customers and things, and I got distracted. But I will say that I do enjoy brick stitch, and I think I actually enjoy brick stitch more than peyote stitch, just because, I don't know, there's something about this like stacking up of the beads. It's extremely satisfying to me, and that may be something that I have to discuss with my therapist, but like, really do like brick stitch. Peyote stitch is beautiful. It makes really cool looking things. It just seems to always take for freaking ever. Like, I kid you not, I still have a peyote stitch project from when I was like 14 that I haven't finished. At this point, I don't even think I could lay my hands on the beads anymore. But so I like brick stitch, I like right angle weave. I really want to learn spiral stitch, and some of these days I will have the spare time and brain power to teach myself something new, and I will teach myself spiral stitch. Because I had a client in Houston, so all I'm doing is I'm just continuing to build my foundation row here, but I had a client in Houston who was incredibly sweet and incredibly talented, as a lot of bead store patrons are, and she made these amazing spiral stitch long lariat necklaces. I mean, I'm talking like 4 and 5 foot long lariats where she used spiral stitch and combined seed beads and gemstone beads and glass beads, and just she would wear her pieces in, and they were just amazing. And I really wish I could remember her name so that I could reconnect with her on social media, because she was just such an amazing artist. Okay, so I've finished my foundation row. So now what I'm gonna do is I've done my last bead, so I've got to connect this bead and this bead, because see how they're not actually connected. So all I'm gonna do to do that is I'm gonna go down through this bead and then up through this bead, pull it tight, and wham bam, there we go. Now it's ready for my second row. My second verse, same as the first. So bead on your needle, you're gonna go ahead and pass underneath your thread that's passing between these two beads. But here's the thing, is the circumference of your second row is going to be bigger than the circumference of your first row, so you're going to have to add some increases in here. So how do you increase in brick stitch? Is actually really easy. It's one reason I love brick stitch. So this is the thread that I went under for this bead. I'm just going to go under the same thread for my next bead. And literally, if I wanted to do that every single time, I literally could increase every stitch, but what that would result in, it was kind of a ruffled effect, which isn't necessarily what I'm going for here. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to increase every bead. I'm going to increase every second or third bead. And since it's interesting, this is another thing that we were talking about here at the bead store today, since your check seed beads that I am using are not necessarily always consistent in shape and size, there's not a precise algorithm for increases. So you might have to increase every second bead, you might have to increase every third bead, you might have to increase every fourth bead. Like, it just kind of depends on the beads that you're using and what their size differential is. But my kind of, go-to is, alright, so I just put on this bead, and so I'm looking here at my next options for adding a bead are going to be using this thread here or this thread here. Now if I go to this thread here, that's really far away, so that tells me that it's time for an increase, that I'm gonna go ahead and use this thread here, and then the bead after that I'm gonna jump to that one. And this is where it's a little bit more of an art than a science, of just like, you know, the more you do this sort of thing, the more you're gonna become attuned to how the beads are gonna stack up and how you need to manipulate. Hi, Tallyfet! That's okay. I mean, you're late, but I don't think I'm doing anything that's gonna be news to you, because it's just circular brick stitch with size 6 seed beads. So, welcome in, and it's good to see you. But yeah, like, it's not like you missed anything earth-shattering to you, Tallyfet. Because you are way better at seed beading than I'm not going to say than I will ever be, but than I have the time and resources to be at this point. But what I was just saying about increases in circular brick stitch, especially when you're working with check glass beads that are inconsistent in shape and size, is just, you kind of have to feel it. You really do. And I hate when people are trying to teach me something and they're like, you just have to feel it. You just have to figure it out. Like, this is not what I'm paying you for. Luckily, none of you all are paying me anything for this tutorial, so I can be the appropriate level of vague, but unfortunately, there is just a little bit of, you know, there's a little bit of learning, and there's definitely so much trial and error that goes into it, and eventually, you know, when you've made enough errors, you're gonna figure it out. Exactly. Knead the dough until, God, and that was one of the things. So when my mother was guiding me in cooking, you know, when I was younger, significantly younger, you know, there was one time where I was making vegetable dip for a party, and the recipe just said celery salt. Yeah, sour cream, veggie dip. So sour cream, dill, dillweed, onion powder, garlic powder, celery salt, and well, hello, everyone, Batman. Welcome to the seed bead tutorial, and also me telling a story about cooking in my youth, which actually does relate to seed beading, though only tangentially. But but yeah, so my mom's recipe for veggie dip literally said sour cream, you know, it just listed the ingredients: sour cream, onion powder, garlic powder, celery salt, dillweed. And I am good. We had a great day here at the Beading Dreams. We got to see lots of people that we love in person, including some people who currently live far, far away from us. So that was fantastic. How is everything in your world? So anyway, sorry. I may have had cheese before the stream, which is why I now sound like I've been smoking for most of my life. So, the point of this whole rant is that my mother would say, well, just add the celery salt until it tastes right. And my thing as a young person was, well, I don't know how it's supposed to taste. I don't know what tastes right. And of course this did not go well for me in my teenage years when I added celery salt to the point that tasted right to me, and almost murdered everyone at my mother's dinner party from high blood pressure created by excessive salt in the veggie dip. But I like to think I'm a little bit better than that, because at least I'm giving you an example of, hi Sophia, I'm giving you an example at least of what it should look like. So this is my second row of brick stitch with my seed beads, and then I'm about to link my rows together, and then I'm about to embark on the great cheat. So I need to link This is the end of my row. This is the beginning of my row. So I'm just going to go down through the beginning of my row. And then up through the end of my row. And wham bam. There we go. So everything is now linked together. Okay, so now comes the great cheating portion of the program where I'm going to grab some 6mm gemstone beads and I'm going to make a row using these. This is going to go a lot faster. Why? Because these beads are a lot bigger than the ones that I was just using. So the technique is still the same. So the bead goes on to the needle and then the needle goes under the thread and then the thread goes up again through the bead. Now, because of the differential of the size of the beads, you're probably fine with just like a one to one bead to one thread, but you may actually have to decrease when you're doing this. I mean, I'm not saying we here at the bead shop aren't awake at 4 a.m. typically, because normal people sleep at 4 a.m., right? Don't they? I think that means we're not normal people. Alright, so I'm just now going to do a whole row of my gemstone beads. Also, it just occurred to me that I hope there's enough gemstone beads in this little mini strand I grabbed to actually make this work. I have no idea what's going on in the chat right now. So y'all have fun, and I'm gonna just keep adding jasper beads on the outside of this pendant. And then we're gonna talk about finishing. So let's see. So we have survived, hopefully, our last freeze here in Dallas. We had a freeze last night, and now we're supposed to just be back up in the 50s and 60s. So historically in Dallas, that typically means that we are done with. Hi, Megan. Hello, people with lives. You're funny. That's hilarious. I was gonna say that you're looking at my life right here. But anyway, so yeah, so the joke, of course, is that North Texas has, 12 seasons. So we hopefully are finally finished with third winter, and now we can progress to the pollinating, which will be followed by actual spring. All of you who have allergies who live in North Texas know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the pollinating. It's the time when your eyes are watering and your nose is watering and you sound like a frog and you're, vomiting because you're ingesting too much mucus. Was that too much information?
We're going down that path.
Well, I mean, straight off the cliff. Okay, I'm tired. You know when I'm tired that the path to like on the cliff and off the cliff is very short. When I'm a little bit less tired, I'm better at regulating my talking, but not so much when I'm tired. Uh-oh. I put Lori out for supper. Oops. Oh, though, okay, well, this brings me back to another story from today. So Rita, who's one of our regular stream viewers and also one of our most favorite clients, she's amazing and hilarious. So a woman on her street was murdered by her own son, which is terrible. So Rita was relating the tale of the murder, which again was pretty ghastly and god awful. But I was so hungry while Rita was talking about this poor woman's murder that all I could think about was that I needed to go to my car and get my lunch. And I shall feel guilt about that for, you know, at least the next 24 hours. And now I feel like I totally brought the tenor of the stream down, so good job, me. Alright, so I'm almost all the way around with my jasper beads. Okay, I just need a few more, so I think there's going to be just enough. So I didn't have to decrease, I didn't have to increase, which is nice. I pretty much just put one bead per string. And then once again, when I get to, well, luckily for you, Nathan, there's a tutorial on the internet that will teach you how to make one. But what I am making is this, which I've named the Mandala Medallion Pendant. So it's a circular brick stitch pendant. Yes, you will definitely need to keep it away from your caps, Lori, for sure. Okay, so once again, at the conclusion of my row, I'm going to link my last bead, my first bead, by going down, up. And then I'm ready to do my finish. So the finish on this piece is what's called a picot. P-I-C-O-T is how you spell that. Basically, it's actually a fiber arts term that comes from the art form of tatting, picot lace, etc. But it's in beading terms, it refers to this little kind of flourish of 3 beads that is oftentimes used to finish out something like a pendant like this. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and make picots around the outside of this whole pendant, which means that now what I'm going to do, I've linked together my first bead and my last bead on this row. So now I'm going to string on 3 seed beads. And once again, I'm using size 6s, which are fairly large for this type of work. Like this is to get this to fit into, you know, a reasonable amount of time, but you can do this exact same thing with size 11s, even size 15s, and make beautiful, intricate things. But once again, I'm using size 6s and 6mm beads because I don't want to spend 4 hours on this tutorial because we've got a sale to get to. Yes, that is right. In just about 45 minutes, we will be doing a live merchandise sale. I've got new merchandise that I finally finished pricing. So I've got new gemstone cool stuff for y'all. So that is going to be starting on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, about 30 minutes after the end of this tutorial, which means I should really finish this tutorial. So I've got 3 beads, and I'm going down through one of my big beads, and I'm going to pull. And what's going to happen when you kind of pull and shimmy your thread is you're going to get this little trio of beads. You're going to get this little triangle. Hi, Jen! And I'm going to go up through my next bead, and I'm going to do the same thing, which is put on 3 beads, and then go down through your 6mm bead, and that's gonna make another little picot. And I'm gonna continue on around and make a picot on every single one of my 6mm beads. Yes, Jen, this is a fun project. As far as seed bead projects, this is one of, this is my speed of seed bead project, which I will admit is definitely probably slower than your or Talifet's speed of picot or of seed bead project. But yeah, this is a great project, especially for beginning seed beaders who don't have necessarily the patience to do. Yes, Jen is right. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, who don't have the patience to do the super complicated seed bead projects like me. Because as I said, my first peyote stitch project from when I was like 14 is still sitting in a box somewhere in my life. At some point I'm going to find it, and I will bring it here, and I will display for the stream my adolescent attempts at peyote stitch. But yeah, that project's never getting finished. Maybe when I retire. When will I retire is the question. The answer is never. I am going to die in the bead store. Wait, wasn't that the plan?
I thought we were going to retire for that 1 week.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But we need to figure out when we're gonna die so we can retire for like the week before that.
Yeah. That's
So
the hard part.
how does that work?
I don't know.
Okay, well, apparently Heather and I are gonna retire for 1 week. I think my retirement fund will last for about a week, and then we're just gonna die.
Yes.
So we need to figure out when we're gonna die so that we can backdate our retirement, and we can have 1 week of really fun lazy times, and then we can just croak. So anybody who has advice on how to figure that out, let us know. Oh god, the joys of being employed by a small business.
Employed by owning.
Whatever. I mean, technically I'm employed by this small business.
That's true. You are.
I mean, my No! Keep telling you, everyone should have a Heather, but you can't have mine. Okay, you can borrow the Heather, but, no Kent has my Heather. My Heather is my Heather. Okay, so oh dear. All right. We shall negotiate.
Oh no, there's a fight.
So wait, if I'm in a fight with Nathan, like, who are you betting on?
You're scrappy.
I am scrappy. I'm also old and DGAF, so there's that. Alright, so continuing on with my picots. I can't do it without my header. There's gotta be some kind of compromise. I mean... Ah! Wow. Lori, yeah, that's pretty awesome. That's it. That is an amazing. Okay, so White Whale Project stories. Okay, so who has, aside from Lori, who's got a white whale, and me, obviously, and Megan. So who else has a white whale project? Something that you started a million years ago that you are probably never gonna finish. I want to know what everybody else. So my white whale is my peyote stitch amulet bag that I started when I was 14. That still remains unfinished. I am significantly older than 14, in case anyone was wondering. Megan has a knitting project that's been in a drawer since college. Lori has a puzzle that's been sitting since she was married in 1988. Who else has a white whale project? Please share with the class. Bead embroidered mask project. Love. Oh. I also have, actually, I have a lot of white whales. I'm gonna steer away from Moby Dick jokes, but there's a lot of white whales in my world. Just saying. Mosaic, which needs 2 more rows. Oh my god, that's the worst. When it's like so close to being done. So I think it was Heather who actually told me about a local crafting group from someplace she lived that wasn't here that actually had a white whale project exchange. UFOs, there we go.
Yes.
Oh wow, positive. Oh, positively, that's amazing. Not you're our people, obviously. Maybe Summer. Though, okay, so Diane, who is no longer here, right? She left, but she's our resident seed beater. Her mother finished her baby quilt for her and gave it to her for, what was it, her 30th birthday? Heather?
30th birthday, yes. I was so proud of that. It was amazing.
So yeah, so Diane's mother finished her baby quilt and gave it to her for her 30th birthday. So the point here is that we all have unfinished objects, and it's okay. But yeah, so the unfinished object project exchange is an interesting idea because it's always easier to finish somebody else's UFO than your own. So the idea was you like, you know,
We went dark.
Megan went, Megan went dark.
Well, that's fair.
I mean,
That's fair.
that's not surprising.
No.
But yeah, but the point is, like, the idea of a round robin UFO exchange, assuming that you're in a paradigm of like you all have the skills to finish said projects, is nice, you know, because it's always easier to, because there's always the, you know, I feel like there's cumulative guilt that happens with unfinished objects of, like, you know, not, it's like the longer it lingers, the more the emotional weight of it is just like, and then it just becomes this like dragon in your craft room that you don't want to deal with. Maybe that's just me. But anyway, so, you know, you trade the dragons around and then you're like, hey, this is a cool project and it's new to me and it's fun and I know how to finish it and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, speaking of unfinished objects, let's go ahead and finish this pendant so that we can get to the sale. Alright, so the last thing I need to do on this, I've done my picot around the entire outside of it. This piece that's just kind of laying across the top being unsightly is actually my beginning piece, so that's not actually attached to anything. But what I need to do, the last thing I need to do is make a loop from which to hang this. So I'm going to take 10 beads on this thread and then back down through this bead here. And that's going to conclude my project. And I'm going to tie off my thread and be done. 3, 4, 5, 6. Of course, there's only 9 beads here. Fine. 9 beads it is. So I've got my 9 beads on there. 9, 10, 11 beads. Like, these are all good numbers for a loop. Now we're going to go down through that, and that is how we're going to hang this. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to figure out where exactly is this starter thread coming from. And since I've been a little careless in, you know, where am I putting this thread, this is a little bit more difficult than it ought to be. But what I want to do is I just want to unpick that thread from, what the heck did I do? Good grief. This is why I should not put thinky tutorials on Saturday nights, because, yeah. I don't have a lot of thinky parts on Saturday nights. Okay, so now that I have unpicked that thread from all of its various twists and turns, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and I'm just going to sort of follow the path of my threads to the beginning of my thread there. I mean, I still feel like maybe there's room for negotiation. I don't have access to a lifetime supply of Hershey's bars, so I can offer you, Nathan, in exchange for Heather. I am Smee. I will show you in a minute. Let's see, what can I offer to keep my Heather? I have a lifetime supply of seed beads. I have, what's on the sale tonight? Tallyfat, that's a good question. Alright, so we've got more of our new gemstone beads, and they're mixed sizes. So I've got tiny shinies, but I've also got medium shinies. I have a few dead things, though. Unfortunately, Mary the Librarian's, plane was delayed coming back from her cruise, so she probably won't be on the sale today. So we'll see if I get to the dead stuff or not, but I've got tiny shinies. I've got a fair number of prism cuts in 6mm because I cannot resist me a prism cut. These are in fact prism cut broom, so prism cut garnets in 6mm. And lots of other cool gemstones. So that's what's going to be on the sale tonight. And then we will have, okay, really? So much.
So much.
I'm
on the sale tonight.
Well, Heather's on the, no, I'm talking about the, like, so much musical compensation for things that's going on outside of our store right now. But anyway, yes, so gemstones on the sale tonight, and then next week, Tallyfat, we're going to be back to crystals, but bigger crystals. So last thing for this project tonight is we're going to finish this off. So I finally wove over to where my working thread and my original thread are close together, so then I'm going to tie these together in a surgeon's knot, which means I am going to cross them and tie, and then I'm going to cross them in the reverse direction and tie, and then I'm going to throw a little bit of glue on there and trim it, call it done. I said prism. Prism. Amy? Where's your brain? Alright, so that is it for the tutorial tonight. Goodness gracious, that's our Mandala Medallion pendant. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us for our, I said prism with an P-R-I-S-M. Anyway, y'all are gonna hear what you want to hear, but that's our Mandala Medallion pendant. So thanks so much for hanging out with us during our tutorial this evening. So I ran so far over. Oh my god, it's 7:30. So I'm gonna do my best to haul butt and get everything ready ASAP for the sale, which means we'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, hopefully by 7:45 in about 20 minutes for our live merchandise sale for this Saturday night. If we are not going to see you for the sale, thanks for hanging out for the tutorial, and we'll look forward to seeing you back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream next week. For anybody who is new to the stream, you can find us on this channel that you are watching now 5 times a week. We stream Wednesday through Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, plus Thursdays at noon, and live merchandise sales every Wednesday and every Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Excuse me, Central Time. Except, of course, when I talk too much, we're delayed. So we'll be back on this channel, twitch.tv/beadingdream, with our sale in about 20 minutes at 7:45 Central Time to sell you gemstone beads and, of course, for shenanigans. So everyone, grab a cocktail, grab some hydration, grab a snack, and we'll see you back on this channel in just 20 minutes. Bye!